Governor, you're wrong. You need to apologize to these agents. They're doing their jobs. They are Americans. They serve this country with honor and decency and respect. Do not diminish their work simply because you tried to make a cheap point that you could tweet.
What just happened during the House Oversight Committee hearing was unbelievable. Three of the nation's most well-known sanctuary state governors, Pritzker, Hochul, and Tim Walz, found themselves under intense questioning from Representative Byron Donalds. The exchange quickly exposed a sharp contrast between political messaging and the realities of immigration policy. As concerns grew over billions of taxpayer dollars being spent on programs related to illegal immigration, the governors struggled to provide clear answers to straightforward questions. And the most dramatic moment came at the end, when Tim Walz was pressed over remarks comparing American law enforcement to the Gestapo, leading to a tense and highly uncomfortable exchange. Let's take a closer look.
Here to recognize Mr. Donalds from Florida.
Thank you, Chairman. To piggyback off my colleague, Governor Pritzker, how much does the state of Illinois spend on illegal immigration every year?
Again, illegal immigration, that's a federal responsibility. They could tell how much is wasted as a result of their failures.
Governor, don't you keep track of how many people are on your Medicaid rolls, how many people who are illegal immigrants in the state of Illinois who are getting actually benefits in your state? Doesn't your government keep track of that?
They don't get Medicaid in Illinois or any state as far as I know.
Governor Pritzker, you do not keep track of any public service dollars in the state of Illinois that goes to illegal immigrants or goes to people in your state who are not legal residents of the United States and of the state of Illinois. You don't keep track of that.
We absolutely keep track of our budget. We're very closely. And in fact, it's been balanced for 7 years in a row, unlike the Republican before me. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I noticed that in the state of Illinois, you guys don't really keep track of your money, because I asked your mayor in Chicago similar question about a month ago, and he didn't have an answer. It was quite interesting. I think this might be an Illinois problem. Governor Hochul, in your state, you are spending about roughly $4 billion on illegal immigration. And at the same time, you are actually asking the federal government for $4 billion to finish Penn Station. Don't you think it would be better to stop funding illegal immigrants in your state and actually use those resources to finish Penn Station as opposed to coming to the federal government for the money?
Penn Station is owned by Amtrak, not by the state, so it's an appropriate use of their dollars, and Donald Trump has agreed to spend upwards of $7 billion. I appreciated that very much. What we spend on immigrants, the immigrants who are here hardworking to live a life and working on our farms and taking care of our parents in nursing homes and taking care of our children, they have been coming here for 400 years. And we don't keep track of individuals based on their status. We make sure that people have services so we don't end up with an unexpected.
So essentially what you're telling me is that you keep no track of money that is going to people who are not legal in the United States, resources that are taken away from New Yorkers, resources that are taken away from Illinoisans. You guys do not keep track of any of this.
You know what's really challenging is that many people came here with legal status. I mean, temporary protective status, 300,000.
Do you
all of a sudden they wake up one day and it's gone.
Do you go along with the strategy from the Biden administration, which massively expanded immigration protocols that overwhelmed your city and overwhelmed your state? Do you agree with that?
We call for secure borders. We call for this body.
I never remember you calling for secure borders at all, Governor Hochul.
We certainly have.
That doesn't sound like him to my memory.
Many conversations I had with the White House. We asked for federal resources. I mean, you're putting a federal problem on our laps, and you know what? It gets old after a while. I wish you would just do your job.
If your party actually would do the job of securing the nation the way President Trump has now had to do twice, we wouldn't be in this predicament. Wouldn't you agree? Do you agree or disagree that securing the nation's borders is the job of the President of the United States? President Trump has done that job twice now.
Well,
and previous Democrat presidents have not done that job. Wouldn't you agree with that?
This has been a problem that's been in place since I was a young staffer here on Capitol Hill. We worked on immigration, and Ronald Reagan signed amnesty for 3 million people.
You know, it's interesting you bring up Reagan's amnesty in '86. You know, part of that deal was to actually build border wall and secure it. But the Democrat Party refuses to build border wall. You oppose it every single time. Is that your position? Do you now support border walls?
There has been many times when bipartisan legislation is presented to this body, and people just walk away from it. They refuse to do the hard work of governing like governors like us have to do every single day. When I leave here, I'm going to go home and govern a state. I'm not going to tweet about this experience because I have too much work to do taking care of New Yorkers. And
You're really not doing a good job, Governor Hochul, because a lot of New Yorkers are actually coming into my state. In Florida, many of them, they come all the time because they actually want to come to a state that is well run, that protects citizens, does not allow illegal aliens to victimize citizens like they are victimized in the state of New York, like they are victimized in the state of Illinois, like they are victimized in the state of Minnesota. They choose states like Florida and Texas to find safer places to live and raise their families. Hold on, Governor Hochul. We've had enough
crime
time.
rates are much
Governor
lower
Walz,
than
you've been
yours,
sitting over there
much
pretty
lower.
quiet. I got a question for you.
I love to talk. Thank you, Congressman.
Fair enough. You said earlier that the ICE agents under the orders of President Trump are a modern day Gestapo. Do you realize how disgusting a phrase that is, considering the history of Nazi Germany? Would you like to recant that statement?
What I said, Congressman, and I have a long history of supporting law enforcement, I said President Trump was using them as his modern-day Gestapo, not identifying who you are, coming up in unmarked vans, taking people away and giving...
Is it the responsibility of ICE to actually deport illegal aliens in the United States who are here? Isn't that their responsibility?
Yes, it is, Congressman, except that the Constitution is not an inconvenience. It's not an either-or.
Nobody
You
said
can
an
do your job
inconvenience.
and
We have a
practice due
responsibility to deport illegal aliens, and the
Through due
president is
process.
going through that process right now.
We are
And
not
let's be very clear, the previous administration, they abused every process there is under border laws to allow more than 10 million people into the country illegally. And this is a burden on all Americans. And so the president is doing his job. So it is sick to refer to Americans who are ICE agents as Gestapo. Governor, you're wrong. You need to apologize to these agents. They're doing their jobs. They are Americans. They serve this country with honor and decency and respect. Do not diminish their work simply because you tried to make a cheap point that you could tweet. I yield back.
Did you notice the silence at the end? That moment spoke louder than any response. Representative Byron Donalds pressed each governor with direct questions, and the lack of clear answers became impossible to ignore. Let's start with Governor Pritzker of Illinois. Donalds asked a straightforward question about the state's spending related to undocumented immigrants. Instead of giving a direct figure, Pritzker shifted the conversation toward federal responsibility. But Donalds' argument was simple. As governor, he oversees the state's budget, so taxpayers deserve to know where their money is going. When the discussion turned to healthcare funding, Pritzker insisted undocumented immigrants were not receiving Medicaid benefits. Donalds countered by suggesting states provide similar benefits through other state-funded programs, raising concerns about transparency and accountability. Next came Governor Kathy Hochul of New York. Donalds highlighted what he described as a contradiction. On one hand, New York has requested billions in federal funding for infrastructure projects like Penn Station. On the other, the state has also reported billions in costs connected to caring for migrants. His central point was that state leaders should focus first on the needs of the citizens already living there. Hochul responded by pointing to federal immigration policy and decisions made over multiple administrations. But Donalds maintained that current state leaders also bear responsibility for the consequences of their own policies. Then came the exchange with Governor Tim Walz, which became the most talked about moment of the hearing. Donalds confronted Walz over previous remarks comparing immigration enforcement to the Gestapo, a comparison that has drawn widespread criticism. Walz argued that his comments had been misunderstood and that he was referring to broader concerns about policy rather than attacking individual officers. Donalds rejected that explanation, emphasizing that ICE agents and other law enforcement personnel are Americans carrying out duties assigned by the government and should not be compared to one of history's most notorious organizations. That exchange appeared to shift the tone of the hearing. Donalds remained focused on holding the governors accountable for their statements and policies, while the governors defended their records and decisions. Whether viewers agree with Donalds or with the governors, the hearing produced a series of sharp confrontations that quickly gained attention. What do you think? Did Byron Donalds raise legitimate concerns, Or did the governors provide sufficient answers? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more political analysis.